Why United States needs the might of the Filipinos to defend the Pacific Ocean against China. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, thank you so much for your loyalty. Now, today's video is something that I have been wanting to discuss for a long time now. This has been sitting in my drafts for weeks. But today, I want to share why United States needs the might of the Filipino people. This is a very serious topic. So please take a moment to watch this video until the end, because I really would like to emphasize how important it is that we know our history. We have to remember what happened in the past, because some countries are trying to rewrite history and change the way things are going right now. And that Philippines is part of this whole big picture. So, let's talk about it. Now, when I say might of the Filipino people, what I am talking about is the capability of the Filipinos, and how the Filipinos can be a great help for the United States, especially in defending the Pacific. And no, this is not because of the Philippine Army or the Philippine Navy. This is not about the military side of things. This is more about the people. How? Do you know that according to a survey conducted by the Pew Research Center in 2021, majority of Filipinos have high regard for the United States? In fact, 86% of Filipinos express a favorable view towards the United States, which is the highest among the 13 countries surveyed. That same year, a separate survey conducted by the Council for Southeast Asian Studies at Yale University showed that 97% of Filipinos approve of the United States as a partner of the Philippines. These surveys show that Filipinos genuinely have a positive view of the United States. You see, we have to remember the relationship that the Philippines and United States have had since World War II. According to History.com, the Philippines was one of the first countries to join the United Nations. Then President Manuel Roxas led the nation into an era of close political and economic ties with the United States. Now, aside from the fact that we were colonized by the Americans, and they were able to instill the English language and democracy in the country, the United States also helped the Philippines become independent and gain its freedom from Japanese occupation during World War II. As you all know, many Filipino soldiers joined the U.S. Army during World War II under the Philippine Scouts. They fought alongside the Americans to gain the freedom of the Philippines from the Japanese imperial forces. So, the reason why Filipinos are grateful to the United States is because, without them, may not have won the war and have gained our independence from the Japanese. Also, we have to remember that after World War II, the United States helped the Filipinos rebuild the country. Through the Bell Trade Act of 1946, this act granted the Philippines duty-free entry for Philippine exports to the United States and allowed the Filipinos to work in the United States. This further strengthened the relationship between the two countries. Now, moving forward to the present, even though there are some problems between the two nations, such as the Visiting Forces Agreement and the United States policy towards China, the fact still remains that both countries are strong allies, and as mentioned a while ago, Filipinos have high regard for the United States. Now, here's where things get interesting. When it comes to China, do you know that China's claim in the West Philippine Sea is actually invalid according to international law? A lot of countries are aware of this fact, and that is why majority of countries in the region do not recognize China's claims. However, most countries are afraid to go against China due to fear of retaliation. But do you know that the Philippines is one of the few countries that continue to challenge China's claims in the West Philippine Sea despite the ongoing tensions? As mentioned a while ago, the Philippines is part of this whole big picture. You see, China's actions in the West Philippine Sea threaten the peace and stability of the entire region and impedes on freedom of navigation and overflight, as well as the free flow of commerce. The Philippines shares maritime boundaries with 3 other claimant states, Malaysia, Brunei, and Vietnam. As of 2021, China has also built several artificial islands within the region. According to the BBC News, these artificial islands serve as military outposts equipped with military facilities including airstrips, capable of accommodating fighter jets and bombers. These military constructions are being used by China to intimidate the smaller vessels of the Philippine Navy and the Philippine Coast Guard. According to the Philippine Coast Guard spokesperson, Commodore Armand Balilo, the Philippine Coast Guard has recorded at least 228 Chinese Coast Guard law enforcement vessel incursions in the West Philippine Sea since 2016. This number includes the incursion of a Chinese Coast Guard ship that happened just last January 29, 2023. Aside from illegal fishing, these incursions have caused the Philippine Coast Guard to abandon its mission in an area that is actually part of the country. And, as a matter of fact, another article from the Philippine Daily Inquirer reported that the Philippine Coast Guard has abandoned its outpost in the West Philippine Sea off the coast of Palawan due to lack of funds. It was said that the outpost was established in 2015 to monitor and secure the Calayan Island Group, part of the country's exclusive economic zone. The article further stated that the absence of the Philippine Coast Guard in the area leaves the country vulnerable to incursions from Chinese vessels, and it also gives China an advantage in pushing its claims in the disputed waters. This is very alarming because this means that we cannot defend what is rightfully ours and we cannot protect our own people. Now, why does China feel the need to invade the Philippines' exclusive economic zone? Well, according to the Philippine News Today, experts say China's aggressiveness in the West Philippine Sea is driven by its growing assertiveness in asserting territorial claims as well as its desire to have control over the region's rich resources. This is where the United States comes in. Do you know that the United States is bound by the Mutual Defense and Development Agreement to protect the Philippines in case of foreign aggression? This agreement was signed on August 8, 1946, shortly before the Philippines became fully independent from the United States. This treaty states that the parties will strengthen their cooperation in the economic, social, cultural, and technical fields, and will promote collaboration between them in developing their natural resources for the benefit of their peoples. It also states that each party will exercise the right of self-defense individually and collectively, as a member of the community of nations, to build up their armed forces and to maintain such forces as they deem appropriate for their individual defense. And most importantly, it states that the United States will assist the Philippines in the development of its armed forces and will consult together from time to time as to the character and extent of such assistance. The United States and the Philippines also signed the Visiting Forces Agreement in 1998, which allows the United States military to temporarily enter the Philippines for joint military exercises and other lawful activities. However, in 2014, the Philippine Senate rejected a U.S. proposal to grant American soldiers accused of crimes in the Philippines automatic immunity from local prosecution. The Philippine Department of National Defense then said that a new Visiting Forces Agreement is being negotiated. Unfortunately, it seems that this new agreement has not yet been finalized. Now, based on the documents that I was able to find, there are two treaties that bind the United States and the Philippines together. However, it seems that the United States has not been fulfilling its obligation to the Philippines as a partner and an ally. Let me explain. You see, the Visiting Forces Agreement has been a controversial issue in the Philippines ever since it was signed in 1998. Many Filipinos believe that it only benefits the United States and not the Philippines. There are calls for the termination of the Visiting Forces Agreement, as some believe that it gives American soldiers legal immunity, which allows them to commit crimes without facing justice in the Philippines. Furthermore, there are also those who believe that the presence of the United States military in the Philippines is a form of neo-colonialism, and that the VFA is an instrument of U.S. imperialism. On the other hand, many Filipinos also believe that the Visiting Forces Agreement should remain in effect because it provides the Philippines with military and financial assistance from the United States, and that it helps improve the Philippine military's capabilities. Now, on top of that, some Filipinos are calling for the abrogation of the MDCA, or the Mutual Defense and Development Agreement. This is because the Philippines has been suffering from communist insurgency and terrorism for decades. Now, and many Filipinos feel that the United States has not done enough to help the country address these problems. So, some Filipinos are saying that it is time for the Philippines to chart its own course away from its former U.S. colonizer and forge closer ties with China and Russia instead. However, I think the decision of whether or not to maintain or terminate the agreements with the United States is not up to the Filipinos alone. The United States is also a party to these agreements, and they should be held accountable for their obligations. According to Article 117 of the MDCA, either party may terminate this agreement by giving the other party 6 months written notice of termination in the event of a final and complete withdrawal of the United States forces and installations from the Philippines. So, if the United States wants to terminate the MDCA, they have to give the Philippines 6 months written notice. But in this case, it's actually the other way around. Because if the United States is not willing to fulfill their obligations as provided in the MDCA and the VFA, then I believe the Philippines has every right to terminate these agreements. We should not allow any country to take advantage of us or treat us like we are not capable of making our own decisions. That's why I believe that the Philippines needs to strengthen its relationship with countries that respect and value our sovereignty, our independence, and our partnership. We have to look out for our own interests and make sure that we are not taken for granted or exploited by other countries. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you were able to learn something new today. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. And if you have something to add to this discussion, feel free to leave a comment down below. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, everyone. God bless you, and I'll see you in my next video.